member of the California Arts Council and Beverly Hills Arts Commission, is the former West Coast editor of Andy Warhol's Interview magazine and society editor of the Herald Examiner. Her cover stories can be read in Venice and Detour magazines, and she is a contributing editor to California Apparel News. For the next half hour, Joan will bring you inside news and views on society, art, film, and the exhilarating worlds of these multifaceted people. Here is Joan Quinn.
Hi, and welcome to Joan Quinn, etc. I'm Joan Quinn. Our guest is actress Lynn Whitfield. She was born in Louisiana, the oldest of 4 children. Lynn graduated from Howard University in Washington, D.C., then went to New York City to work on the stage. She worked in several musicals, which toured the United States. When Lynn got to Los Angeles, she stayed. She had recurring roles in ABC TV's Equal Justice, Heartbeat, and Hill Street Blues. She made some movies, Silverado, Slugger's Wife, and Dr. Detroit. Then she became an international star, an Emmy Award winner for HBO's The Josephine Baker Story. They were looking for an unknown, Lynn, but you'd had all this body of work. How were you an unknown?
Well, you know, that's the funny thing about establishment Hollywood. I mean, you're an unknown until they find you.
Is that what it was?
And then you've made it. So, you know, all of that work was just feeding me, I think, all the experiences I needed, even back when I was in New York and in Washington, D.C. in school, with everything I needed to do the Josephine Baker Story.
Do you sing and dance?
I danced in it. I do sing. I didn't sing in the film.
But you sing, did you sing on Broadway or off Broadway?
Yes.
Or in touring?
Yes. Yeah, I did. With the Negro Ensemble Company. Such a great company.
You have to really be
Story,
good.
River Niger, all that sort of thing. So I sang there, and I sang in musicals in Washington, D.C., and a little here in Los Angeles. But the demands were so rigorous for Josephine. They waited so long to make the decision that we only had 2 months before we started shooting. And I spent every day in the dance studio, so they had to get someone else to do the singing, you know, all of the aging of her voice and everything.
Is it tacky to ask you how many people were up for it at the end? Yes.
At the very end of it, or
well, I mean, how many people were actually?
I think they saw about. I think rumor has it that they saw, you know, about 500 people.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And then did they narrow it down to 3 or 4 or 5?
To 3 or 4 or 5. That's right.
Do you still speak to those 3 or 4 or 5 women?
I do. Whether they speak or not is a little questionable, but I do, sure.
Did you know anything about Josephine Baker when you actually went in to do the work? Because you're pretty young.
Well, I knew she danced in bananas, that she was the toast of Europe, and that was about it. You know, that she was a very fashionable, glamorous woman. I had no idea that she was a freedom fighter. I had no idea she was such a humanitarian.
And the children, you didn't?
I didn't really know about the Rainbow Tribe and where that came from, that it came out of her needs, you know, her sort of idiosyncrasies in a way.
We have a clip. Do you know what part of the movie we're going to see?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts. I enjoyed this day of shooting more than any day I've ever shot in my life.
Oh, good.
It is a number that she did, that she learned in Cuba called Felicidad. And she goes to Florida to make a success in America, and she integrates the theaters in America, the first big entertainer to do that. And this is one of her performances after she's integrated the theaters. They've agreed to everything she wants, and she's out there in all her glory.
So she's happy. We'll see her.
Yeah.
There's a brand new song I learned down in Havana, Cuba called Esto es Felicidad. Would you like to hear it? Tú me quieres, yo te quiero, tú me adoras. Yo te adoro, te quiero, te adoro. Esto es felicidad. Tú me besas, yo te beso, tú me miras. Yo te miro, y besas, y beso, me miras, te miro. Esto es felicidad, felicidad. Es querer ti. Felicidad es querer me a mí. Tú me besas, yo te beso, tú me miras, yo te miro, me besas, me beso, me miras, te miro. Esto es felicidad.
Wow. How did you do that?
You know, it was so funny. The day that we shot that in this theater in Budapest.
Why were you in Budapest?
We were in Budapest because it was a lot less expensive and it looked a lot like France.
You weren't in Paris for locations
At all. Thank God I'd been there before several times. So
you would have missed
my
out.
sense memories, yeah, absolutely. But right before we went on to do this, the man who was the stage doorman of this theater told me that Josephine Baker had performed at that theater right after the war. And when I stood up on that set with the light behind me right then, I just said, if there's anything left of Josephine Baker's spirit in this place, just please go with me. And there were like about 1,000 people there. They had all the extras. The theater was full. And I can't tell you, it was where Josephine Baker's spirit and my spirit met, and we went wild.
It looked
I
like
had
it.
Such a good time.
It really looked like it. And you just came on with your voice,
Yes.
which sounded a little like it was maturing, and
Yes,
then somebody
exactly.
sang.
And then somebody sang. You said you weren't going to tell, Joan. But that's all right.
Is that
Audrey
okay?
Hepburn told for My Fair Lady. I can tell. It doesn't matter.
Who made your costumes?
They were made in Budapest. We used all Hungarian designers and craftsmen. So every costume fitting I had was done through a translator.
Really? And how long were you in Budapest?
For about 3.5 months, 4 months.
Oh, that was a long time.
A lot of caviar.
Did you go
goulash.
back and forth to Vienna and to different places?
Are you kidding? I was working like 14 hours a day, 6 days a week.
It took that long?
Yeah. Well, we had 3 weeks of rehearsal. And then we went right into shooting.
As you go through becoming Josephine, your voice changes. How did you do that?
Well, the whole thing, if you look at kids and as people mature, there's a lot of energy and everything is like up here and there's so much excitement, and as you mature, you know more, you take more into your body, there's more weight in your body. And as that happens, if you follow the whole process of aging, the voice just naturally follows. It was a natural process for me.
So you weren't thinking
The
about...
only thing that was not natural was sitting in that mirror every day for 4.5 hours and them aging me seeing myself age.
What did they do to you?
Latex.
They did.
Which is liquid, like a liquid rubber. And they put it on your face and you hold it stretched and then you let it go and it falls into the natural place you would have wrinkles. And it is so, I have never been so cranky in my life.
Oh, did it ruin your skin? I mean, were you allergic in any way?
No, I wasn't allergic. You just had to take really good care of it.
Must have dried you out.
Pamper myself.
Did it?
A lot.
But Budapest is the best place for pampering. All those hot waters.
Wonderful. All those
Massages.
spas, the massages, the sulfur, hot springs. Yeah, it was great.
Did you get a chance to experience that?
Oh, whenever I wasn't working, that's where I was. I was at the hot springs, absolutely. I think it really helped me to get through.
Do you think that Josephine Baker was a fashion person? Do you think she was into high fashion when she was living in Paris?
She was just very purely and clearly a clothes horse.
Was she?
Absolutely.
Do you feel that kind of oneness with her?
You know, she was so extravagant in it all. I'm a little different. I'm a clothes horse every now and then, but I'm in the process of kind of defining my own personal style in a way. She was much more extroverted and much more of a show woman.
And she was tall and could carry...
She wasn't as tall as you thought. She looked tall, but she could carry anything. I mean, she could carry 20-foot high, feather headdresses or 100 tails, fox tails, and
That was on stage, but when she was out, she would wear Schiaparelli, I guess. Is that right?
Yes, Poiret, sometimes Chanel. All the designers of Paris would bring her clothes and give them to her.
Oh.
So that when she traveled the world, it would be an advertisement for them. So she had everybody's clothes free, boxes and boxes delivered to her house.
So she did.
It was easy. I would be a Josephine if I had that.
It's easy, and it was her style, I guess. They knew that she could bring out their style and their fashion.
You know, she was a trendsetter. You know, the whole thing with the spit curls, you know, very short hair. When she came in with that short cropped hair, everybody else wanted to do it. The nudity. You know, the nudity. She was a stylist in her own right. She was a very powerful feminist in that she wore things that women weren't allowed to wear at that time. She broke lots of rules, and everybody followed right behind her.
We're going to take a break, and if you stay, we can watch a documentary on Madame Chanel, who was also a trendsetter.
Oh, she's so fabulous.
So watch it with me. We'll sit on the set and we'll watch it together, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about it.
I'd love to.
Okay. We'll be right back. Don't go away, because when we come back, we'll show you a documentary on Madame Coco Chanel.
I set the fashion for a quarter century, said Mademoiselle Chanel. Why? Because I knew how to express my own time. My time was ready for me, waiting. All I had to do was come on the scene. For over 50 years, the stylish and fashionable have been faithful to a deceptively simple glamour. Simplicity does not mean poverty, Chanel decreed. Fashion is a reflection of a period, she said. Karl Lagerfeld reworks Chanel for our time.
I like from Chanel her youth, her aggressive behavior and all that. She was a beautiful woman who dressed for herself, who wanted to be different from everybody else. And
she was around to repeat the name endlessly, longer than everybody else. She became a kind of guardian of her own image of the past.
Ah, j'en suis ravi. Évidemment, c'est ce que j'ai cherché, c'était mon but. Créer un style, il n'y en avait plus. À mon sens, car il n'y a pas de style en France. Il y a un style dans une nation de ça. Il y a un style quand les gens de la rue sont habillés comme vous. Et je crois être parvenu à ça.
Fashion passes, Chanel said. Style remains. Karl Lagerfeld came to Chanel in 1983. His creative energy has brought back the excitement and anticipation that Mademoiselle Chanel generated in her prime.
In every decade, there is a way to put Chanel back on the fashion map because it's, with the blue jeans, the most famous look in the world.
The most famous look in the world. But what is that look? And why is it so famous? The answer lies in the complex personality and enduring spirit of Chanel herself. Chanel was the first truly modern woman. She was young and free of the conventional idea of a woman's role. She needed to make her own way in the world and started by designing hats. Chanel opened a shop at Deauville. Here, she introduced sporty fashion, loose and fluid, designed for resort life.
As everybody knows, Chanel started with hats before World War I, and here are a few sketches I copied from photos of her first successes immediately after the war, when she became really famous. For me it's fun because there is no other house with so many elements you can use again. The shoe with the black touch, the quilted handbag, the basic jacket, the camellia, the typical Chanel jewelry, the satin ribbon, and the Chanel button. And now it's up to me, with all those elements, to keep things going. I did this for the 80s, and now let's try to do it for the 90s.
The elements of Chanel's inventions have a new life through the contemporary spirit of designer Karl Lagerfeld.
I like the idea of using some basic elements. People can easily identify the label this way, but it has to be done in a completely new, different way with no fake idea of tradition. It has to change every 4 or 5 years. Here are a few of her big successes from the 20s, what really typical Chanel 20 looks.
Chanel's fashion reflected her own vision of herself as young and free-spirited. What set her apart and kept her name alive after others were forgotten was that she was her own best model, the personification of the spirit which had inspired the fashion. In 1921 came the biggest single boost to Chanel's image, Chanel No. 5, the first perfume to bear a designer's name. The clean geometry of the bottle was modern, yet meant elegance and mystery, two qualities forever associated with Chanel. No elegance is possible without perfume, she said. It is the unseen, unforgettable, ultimate accessory of fashion.
Alors je pense que le parfum, c'est le luxe, voyez-vous. Et même très léger, ça peut être un petit parfum de rien du tout, du moment qu'il est bien choisi et qu'il ressemble à la personne qui doit s'en servir. D'ailleurs, je vais vous dire un mot de Paul Valéry, qui disait qu'une femme mal parfumée n'avait pas d'avenir, et il avait bien raison. Parce qu'une femme mal parfumée, ça veut dire une femme qui ne se parfume pas du tout.
By the mid-20s, Chanel had become the leader of the fashion world and an international figure. Fashion, said Chanel, should be seen and worn on the street and not be the exclusivity of a privileged class. Vogue magazine described this simple black dress as a Ford signed Chanel. In the late 20s, Chanel supple suits, made in wool jersey, a fabric which had not previously been used in fashion, became her trademark. I liberated the body, she said.
For me, Chanel was a woman who used material men used to wear only as underwear to make dresses for women out of that. I think the idea to do that is much more shocking than me today doing vinyl circle for day and things like this. I think this was a bigger shock then than what we do now.
As she became rich and famous, Chanel projected her personality into the world of culture. She became friends with the capricious Misia Sert, who introduced her to a circle of avant-garde artists, including Igor Stravinsky, the composer, the impresario Sergei Diaghilev, and Jean Cocteau, who asked Chanel to design the costumes for his modernist ballet, Le Train Bleu. Samuel Goldwyn paid Chanel $1 million to come to Hollywood and design the fashions for his leading stars, including Gloria Swanson, seen here in the 1931 romance Tonight or Never. The phenomenal success of the fashions and perfume bearing her name had made Mademoiselle Chanel a very famous woman.
Hi, it's Joan Quinn, and I'm on the set with Lynn Whitfield. We just watched that Chanel documentary together, and we were pretty awed.
She is so fabulous.
Isn't she? The one thing she says is fashion passes, but style remains.
It's true.
What's style to you?
A simplicity, a self-assuredness in whatever it is. When I walk through the streets of Paris now, be it Pigalle or Saint-Germain, it doesn't matter. They all have style. It's the way they throw a scarf around their neck, that basic blazer that they choose. Style for me is always simple, you know, and something that is, unlike fashion, which you wear, style is integrated into your personality. It's part of your character.
Do you think you can have style without spending a lot of money?
Absolutely. I think a lot about style is in the line of something. The cut of a jacket, the cut of a pair of trousers. Then, of course, the fabric and what it is. But you can shop around. You can find those fabrics, I mean, in discount stores. And you know what people do, where they really find them, and designers go and find them and then copy them, are antique jackets and trousers and things and blouses.
Do you think the style of, say, a movie or a future project that you would choose reflects on your style? The idea of choosing something, and then do you think that is your
I think
style?
if I were a director, you know, I would be able to, or a production designer, I would be able to impose my personal sense of style on it.
Mm-hmm.
But any good artist is going to look at the material, feel the texture, the sense, the period that it's in, and then go with that style.
So you have to be a part of the style that you're representing.
You really do, and then within that, you can impose a lot of your own taste. But you really have to go with the period, with the time. I mean, there's a project that I want to do one day, which is Angela Davis.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Angela Davis was, most of her story takes place in that time when it was bell-bottoms and bright colors and dashikis and
afros.
flower children and afros. So it's actually that retro 70s, 60s thing, which is very hot right now. So you can take that and then make it contemporary. You know, make it feel like today as well.
How would something like that come about, the Angela Davis story?
If somebody gets enough nerve to say, yes, this woman can do it, yes, this black woman's life is important, and we need to believe in it and go on and put the money behind it and do it. So it just depends. Look how long it took to bring Josephine Baker to the screen.
And Malcolm.
And Malcolm, which is now, thanks to Spike Lee
But do you really think that's what it is? It's really someone believing in the project?
it's someone having the courage to do it. You know,
more.
it's a biography about any woman is difficult to do, and a biography about a black militant communist
But you want to handle that, right?
Yeah, of course I want to handle it. I mean, she was a renegade, a revolutionary, a humanist, and her story deserves to be told, because it's a time now where we all need to believe in something and need to stand behind our beliefs, and that's what she did. And what she fought for, we're still fighting for. What she fought for 20 years ago, then why did we have these riots this summer? You know, why? If all those problems are solved, why? So I think, yes, it's good to take a sort of retro view of what happened then and compare it to what's happening now and see where we sit.
And I see that you're really into doing that. When you're not looking for future projects, what do you do in your leisure time?
Well, you know I have a little baby girl. You haven't met yet. You got to do that soon.
Little Gracie.
Little Grace, who's almost 15 months old. So I spend a lot of, I don't have spare time anymore, my spare time. Now that I have Grace, I don't have spare time. So when I'm not acting or thinking of projects and some recreational activities, I'm with her. And I'm about to take up, actually, horseback riding.
Oh.
English.
A leisure time activity.
Yeah, well, you know, that helps to keep the old legs in shape and everything. So I figure it's a double activity.
That's great. Do you cook?
I cook. I don't consider that an activity. It's a chore. It's a part of life that has to be done sometimes.
So you do. You can live at home and take care of your home.
Yeah, I do that. I love to travel, to catch up on museums and plays and things like that.
Do you go to a lot of theater in Los Angeles?
You know, I don't.
You should.
I do in New York, and I do in when I go to London, but here I don't. I tend to get caught up in my own life and not get out there, and I think so many people are guilty of that here.
I like to see you on the stage in one of these little theater productions.
Oh, I'd love to. The last thing I did was at Los Angeles Theater Center, which is no longer with us.
No, but it would be great to see you doing that.
I'd love to.
And before we leave,
Yes.
tell us what your idea of the ideal lifestyle would be.
Well, I think it would be the lifestyle of a sort of gypsy. And I would go between a sort of pastoral country life where I ride horses and cook and sit and read in front of the fire and play with Grace and really, really explore nature with her and be where I'm not impacted by the madness of contemporary society now, you know, where I can just think and create. And the other part of that is to be in the middle of absolutely everything.
That's what I thought. I couldn't see you there for very long.
And to be in the middle of everything, in New York or Paris or London, and see people and talk to people and go to shows and go to the museum, like we did in New York.
Like we did. We had a great time. And we're going to do it again. Next time we'll come back and tell you everything we did in New York. Maybe we'll tell you about London and Paris, too.
Yeah, let's do Paris next.
Okay. Come back and watch us on Joan Quinn, etc. And thanks to Lynn Whitfield and the fabulous Coco Chanel.
Oh, she's so fabulous. She's inspired me.